Sobriety Essays number 57, God's Path. When I was new to AA and freshly out of rehab, it was a 45-minute drive to work. I was still angry, afraid, and ashamed. I was sober, but my life was still in bad shape. So to stop thinking on this 45-minute drive, I found me 5 or 6 AA speaker tapes. It was so much easier listening to these speakers than driving along with me and thinking. They were from time to time actually very funny while carrying the message of sobriety. There was one speaker that really had an influence on my life. He told me the story about being on God's path. When you're on God's path, things just fall into place. The people, the places, the things just as smooth as being on a path. To make a quick summary, he was 5 years sober, working in a car wash, when he opened up a book of matches and inside it said, "How would you like to be a writer?" Just made no sense at all. Just seemed like a good idea. 5 years later, he had a successful career with a large Hollywood firm, writing some very good Starsky and Hutch stories. So my story is about being on God's path. I was about 2 months sober when a man from work called me and he wanted to carpool. We lived in the same city, worked at the same plant, and we would save money driving together and have someone to talk to while driving. He and his family had moved from Israel, and his profession was a master programmer. This is long before Google and computers had kilobytes, not terabytes. I knew how to turn on a computer, but only to find information, like how much stock we had and when it was next shipment was in. That was all the knowledge I had. So he was just interesting to talk to. And at 6 months sober, for absolutely no known reason, I simply said, "I would really like to learn how to do what you do." Made no sense at all. It just seemed like a good idea. He told me to come down to his office twice a week on my lunch hour, and he would teach me to be a programmer. Now, being on God's path, God had put an interesting sponsor in my life. This sponsor and I were as different as night and day. He had an 8th grade education. He ran the streets from the time he was 12, made his living as a bookie, got a job in a machine shop after he got sober, and was one of the most loving men I had ever met. He and I started to go through the 12 steps, word by word. He said something one time about the 3rd step that just made sense to me. He told me that it was perfectly okay to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood him, but if I turned my electric bill over to God, I was going to sit in the dark for a long time. He added, "If you got a job to do, get off your dead ass and go do the job." That had a great deal of influence on the rest of my life. I developed a morning prayer I still say, and I love to say it. "God, grant me the willingness to do whatever it is I'm supposed to do today. Amen." I do not tell God what I think I should be doing. I do not tell God what I think he should be doing. I just want the willingness to get up and do whatever God puts in front of me. As a result of that prayer, I found the willingness to go to my programmer friend's office every Tuesday and every Thursday for 4 years. I was elevated to a position of master programmer. I could not read the manual. This taught me a couple things about being free of alcohol. The human mind, when free of alcohol, can absorb a tremendous amount of information, provided I have the willingness to learn. A quote from the 12 and 12 on page 34. "Willingness is the key to sobriety."